I'm going to show you how to automate a weekly timesheet in Excel using special formulas to auto-populate the dates and the pay period range, then how to calculate the time in and time out, including breaks, and then how to properly calculate overtime for hours worked over 40 in a work week. Be sure and check out my other videos on timesheets. You'll see how to automate a semi-monthly and a bi-weekly timesheet. And if you want to get a jump start, you can purchase these templates and download them. I'll include a link in the description below, or you can visit my website, SharonSmithHR.com. I hope you like this video. Here we have our weekly timesheet, and we have a cell here where we're going to enter the pay period start date, and we have the pay period end date that will automatically calculate. It's going to give us a weekly spread of time because we're going to take that pay period start date, which is in cell G3, and add 6 days to that. We're going to make sure that all of our date cells are formatted as dates, so we'll right-click, click on Format Cells, and make sure that it's formatted as a date so it won't appear as a number. Then we're going to come down to our timesheet. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and we can see all of the days in the week on our weekly timesheet. And so the first date is going to equal cell G3, which is the pay period start date. Then the next cell underneath that is going to take the cell above it, C10 plus 1. And then we drag that formula down so that we have all of the dates that will automatically populate based on just entering the pay period start date up here. Then we also have the day of the week that will automatically populate based on the date that it's referencing in the cell next to it. And that formula that we use to populate the day of the week is equals text, open parentheses, then we select the cell of the date that we want to reference, comma, space, quotes, DDDD, end quotes, and close parentheses, and that gives us the day of the week, and then we can copy that formula all the way down as well. So now notice what happens if I change the pay period start date. Let's say our work week starts on a Monday instead of a Sunday. We can put 6/24/24 and hit enter, and that's going to update all of the dates and all of the days of the week on our weekly timesheet. Now the next thing we want to do is format for our data entry of the time in and time out, so users can input their time on their timesheet. And so we want to select all of the cells for each row of the week from cells D all the way through G, and what we want to do is right click and click on Format Cells and make sure that we have a custom format. We're going to click Custom and then scroll down to the format where they can enter the time as the hour, minute, space, and then capital AM or capital PM, and then click OK. And when we set that up, we want to make sure to give users special instructions to make sure that they type their time in that exact format. That way we can calculate everything correctly. So once we have that set up, if a user comes down, let's say they can input 8:45 space AM, enter, and it will automatically format the time to that specification. Then what we want to do is take a look at our column for the total hours worked each day. We want to auto-calculate the total hours worked, and we do this by taking the time out at the end of the day minus the time in, giving us the whole amount of time that you work for the whole day, but then we want to subtract the time that you might have taken for a break in the middle of the day. And so then we want to multiply that by 24 because there are 24 hours in a day, and that'll give us the total hours worked in a full day. We can copy that formula all the way down. And then down here under total hours, we can sum all of the total hours worked for our weekly timesheet. Once we have the cell with the total hours, then we can calculate our regular hours and our overtime hours. And the formula we use to do that ensures that we can have up to 40 hours, but not more than 40 hours in this cell. And likewise for the overtime, we don't want to have a negative number in there. So if somebody doesn't work 40 hours in the work week, we don't want to have a negative number show up. So that will show up as 0. And so we use the formula max 0, comma, and we reference the cell with the total hours minus 40 and close parentheses. So those are the formulas we use to control that and make sure that we have accurate timekeeping. Then the pay rate can be entered here. So if someone's pay rate changes or you need to update that, then we have the overtime rate of pay that automatically calculates based on the base pay rate times 1.5. So that's time and a half for any hours worked over 40 in a work week. If that factor is different at your organization, make sure you update that formula there. Then we have our totals for regular pay and overtime pay. We're going to take our base rate of pay times the regular hours, and then for overtime, we'll take the overtime rate of pay times the overtime hours, and that's going to give us a total pay on our weekly timesheet when we sum those regular and overtime hours together. Now, if we want to make sure that our timesheet prints to one page, or if we save it as a PDF that it displays on one page, all we have to do is come up to our Page Layout tab, go to Margins, click on Custom Margins, and then on the Page tab, make sure that this button is checked that says Fit to 1 page wide by 1 page tall, and click OK. Then if you want to create extra tabs on your workbook for other weeks that you want to track, all you have to do is go down to your tab. You can right-click, say Move or Copy, move to End, create a copy, click OK, and this duplicates that weekly timesheet. You can come up, you can enter a new pay period start date and start fresh and have a new timesheet for each week, and whatever period that you want to track. If it's for the whole year, you can create this for 52 weeks out of the year. Or we can set up a macro that will create all of those tabs for us automatically. It's really easy, so I'll show you how to do that. All we have to do is copy our weekly timesheet by selecting all and hit Control-C to copy. Then come up and open up a new worksheet. And then we're going to hit Control-V to paste. Let's go up to View and turn off our grid lines. All right, now let's format this first tab for our week 1. We're going to come down and name the tab Week 1. And we're going to put the pay period start date as the first week of the year. And notice that starts on a Monday. And then we're going to put the name of the employee that we want to create this workbook for. Now we can adjust our formatting. And I'm going to clear out all of the time that's entered in, so it'll be a blank timesheet. We're just going to select all those cells and hit delete. And then make sure that that person's base pay rate is entered here in this cell. Now what we want to do is we want to create a macro that's going to automatically create all the other tabs for the rest of the 52 weeks in the year, and that way we can provide this workbook to the employee to fill in for each week for their time. So what I'm going to do now is come up to the Developer tab and click on Visual Basic. We're going to make sure that we're in the current workbook, and we're going to click on Insert Module. Now I have some VBA code that I'm going to paste over here. I'll include it in the description below, and I'll explain what this is doing. I'm just going to copy and paste the code here. And in this VBA code, what it is we're going to look at this current workbook. We're going to look at the week 1 tab as an example. And what it's going to do is it's going to loop to create tabs for weeks 2 through 52. And then it's going to rename each of those tabs for each week. And then it's also going to update that pay period start date on each of those tabs. All right, now all we have to do is click Save. And it's going to make sure that we save our workbook. So we can call this the person's name and weekly timesheets. And now the file type, we want to drop down and save this as a macro-enabled workbook and click Save. Now we can resave our VBA code and close out. Now to run the macro, all we have to do is come up to our macros, select the Create Weekly Timesheets macro, and click on Run. Now when it's finished, it says that 52 weekly timesheets created successfully, and we can click OK. So notice that week 52 down here at the bottom has the pay period start date as 12/23, and so all of these dates are automatically updated. So if we look back, say week 47 and week 44, notice that those pay period start dates are automatically set up for you. So now you can provide this employee with an entire year's worth of weekly timesheets that they can fill in on each tab and save. Be sure and share this video with your friends and check out my other videos on timesheet templates. You can visit my website, SharonSmithHR.com, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.